Hi everyone, welcome to the Moto Muse vlog. I'm Hannah. So today's vlog was initially meant to be about a really awesome ride that Josh and I went on this weekend with Dames Don't Care and Mad Dog MC. The thing is I wasn't feeling that awesome on this ride, and it wasn't anything about the ride. Dames Don't Care, Mad Dog MC, everyone who attended was so kind and welcoming and amazing, and the route was awesome. We rode down to Alice's, and honestly, I will likely do another vlog about this ride and probably do a similar ride with all of these people again at some point. But on this ride, it really, it was hard for me because, as I've mentioned before, I laid my bike down. And I've built up a lot of fear that is making my ability to not just ride, but ride safely and confidently a struggle. And I was really struggling on this ride, and I was not feeling awesome, and it really made me realize that it was time for me to share with you the story of my crash. So in order to tell you this story, let's go back to 2012. That's right, 8 years ago, before we had a pandemic, before the words social and distance became mushed together, a simpler time, if you will. It was my 4th track day. Josh and I, we signed up with Fast Track Riders down in Los Angeles. We were living down there at the time. And we signed up to do a track day at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana. It's a really great track. I've ridden it once before this time and had a great experience. One of the things I really like about Fontana is they have really nice amenities. They have actual garages that you can pit in. They have bathrooms with actual plumbing. They have showers. It's a really nice track. So I know there's a lot of great tracks out there, but I really like Fontana. So we're really excited to be at the track day. We signed up for a Sunday track day. So Saturday, we loaded up the truck with our bikes and all of our things and got to the track Saturday evening, set up, got our bikes into a garage and set up our tent. Josh has this really cool tent. It fits in the back of his truck. And so you camp in the bed of the truck, which is kind of nice. It's fun. It's also really fun to camp at the track. It's a great chance to get to know other riders, and even just being there. The track day starts bright and early, so it's really nice to be able to just wake up and be there already and just worry about getting ready, getting to the riders' meetings, all of that. So we get there, we set up. So Fast Track has 3 different skill levels when it comes to their sessions. They have levels 1, 2, and 3. Level 3 being the faster, more experienced riders. You can pass anywhere on the track, provided that you do it safely, inside or outside, and keep a 6-foot distance between bikes. The intermediate is similar, except I believe the one thing they request is there's a certain turn that you couldn't pass in for the intermediate levels. And for level 1, which was the novice category, which I was in still, was you could pass in straightaways, and in corners you could only pass in the outside. So that meant that, like, if you were turning left, for example, you couldn't pass someone underneath, like on the inside of the turn. You could pass them on the outside. As long as that was, again, within that 6-foot distance. So So it's track day, Sunday morning. We are excited, we're awake, we're ready to go. Well, I was awake. I'm not a morning person anyways, but this was a morning that I just was feeling really exhausted. I was so excited to be doing this track day that I think it was just the adrenaline, the excitement. I had trouble falling asleep, and then waking up on Sunday it was hard. I just felt like I was dragging. I know I had some caffeine and I had breakfast, but it's just really like the energy was just not there. So at any rate, I got up, got my bike teched, got to the riders meeting that was at 8 a.m. so bright and early, and got ready to go out on the track. Now, the order that Fast Track does things is they kind of go in reverse order. So level 3 goes out first at the top of the hour. Then 20 minutes in is when level 2 goes out, and then level 3 for the last 20 minutes. And I'm sorry, level 1 for the last 20 minutes. So for the first session of the morning, for all levels, they did do a sighting lap just to take everyone around the track, make sure that everyone kind of knew the race line, what to follow. Josh's group went out first. He came back in. I'm getting suited up. I want to make sure that I get out there and do that sighting lap. Still feeling pretty sluggish and not really, just not waking up. I don't know, have you ever had one of those days, just not waking up? So get on my bike, get out, follow the instructor for the sighting lap. Doing okay. I mean, at least the sighting lap, you never really go very fast. It's about following the line and learning the line of the track more than speeding through it. After which the instructor leaves and you can continue to do laps for the rest of the session. And I remember doing, I want to say 3 or 4 more laps, like not a lot. My bike's not super fast, as we've discussed in the past. The little Ninja 250 only goes so fast, especially down those straightaways. But did a couple more laps, and I remember just feeling like, man, I'm just not awake. I should really go in on this next lap. And as I came around into that final turn of like, you come into turn 16 and 17, and that's really where you should be slowing down and coming inwards, staying to the left actually, and letting the other riders know I'm slowing down, and then that's where you exit the track, is as you come around into where turn 18 is. Instead of going down straightaway, you exit back into pit lane. And I, in that lap, just was coming around too fast, stayed in kind of the race line, if you will. And I think there might have even been someone kind of behind me at that point. So I ended up just kind of staying on track, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do one more lap. As I'm on this lap, I see the checkered flag, which means, all right, guys, wrap it up, come on in, your session's over. So I'm going through, doing my laps, coming through the curves. Yeah. Still not quite awake, which is crazy because you should have so much adrenaline going at this point that you should really be awake. And start coming through, there's this little straightaway down the back, and then like turns 13, 14, 15, and then you come into 16, 17, and I was coming in, I was probably around 45, 50 miles per hour, and what you want to do when you go into a turn is you want to brake. You want to slow down so that you kind of come into the turn, and then a controlled throttle, pull through, and that you lean, but it pulls you through these turns. And each turn is a little different depending on how tight it is and how wide, and you may not have to slow down as much, but you can. It's a little bit, she's climbing around. But you can always pull faster out. You don't want to go so fast into a turn. You want to be controlled through it. So I start coming into turn 16 and 17, which is where you start to kind of like really arc around, and my brain says, and I remember it because everything just turned into slow motion at this point. My brain said, all right, you gotta slow down. And I remember I grabbed my clutch, because you grab the clutch and then you can brake so that you don't stall your bike. I grabbed the clutch and then I just barreled right into turn 16, full speed, didn't slow down, didn't brake front or back, just kind of like clutched and just went. At which point, as it was happening, I could just feel myself. I started to go into the turn, just my body was doing it. I just didn't brake, started to lean, and slow motion. I just was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. This is my first crash. I'm laying my bike down. Everyone says it's gonna happen. Cause if you're at the track and you're doing these things, like, you are practicing riding. You're bound to make mistakes and you're bound to lay your bike down. This is how you learn the limitations. You learn how to ride better. It's through the times that you make mistakes. In most things in life, I feel like I learn more from one mistake than I ever do from like doing something correctly a million times. So I start to go into this low side. Now, what that means, because there's low siding and high siding. So if you're low siding, it means that you're going on your motorcycle, and typically it's when you're in a turn and your bike basically just starts to lay down, and so it's coming low onto its side, and typically just kind of goes and goes out. And that's exactly what happened. I came into my turn, and just as I leaned, I just was going too fast and I didn't have enough grip, and I just slid out. Now, as it happened, because Josh is racing and he's got friends like his friend Austin who races, everyone that I've ever talked to, they're like, well, when you do go down, because it happens, they said, don't fight it. Don't try to tense up, just relax, just kind of let it happen, because if you fight it, that's when friction can happen. And friction is when you end up bouncing around, and you can really injure yourself if you don't crash correctly. And you can't always control it, but if you are low siding and you just are kind of sliding in, just slide, just go with it. And that's what I did in that moment. I'm like, okay, it's happening. My first crash is happening. I need to let it happen. I just need to relax. It's okay. It's okay. And I just remember I was like, okay. And I just like let it happen. My boot, however, got stuck on my fairing as we went down. So as we went down. And so what happened was, as it went down, it went and it pinned onto my leg. And so I probably would have stopped sooner, but my bike had momentum and weight with it, and I just got dragged with it. But my leathers did their job, and they slid. My leathers did their job, and I slid, and I kind of was like on my belly, on my left hip and forward like this, and I just kind of a good ways. There was a moment once I stopped that as it all just kind of calmed down and got quiet, I had a moment where I was just like, okay. And I couldn't move because my leg was pinned and my bike's around 300-ish pounds. It wasn't something I could yank my leg out from because it was stuck on the fairing. And I couldn't lift the bike from the angle that I was at. So I had like this momentary panic when, there's a cat. So anyways, I had this momentary panic of kind of like this claustrophobic, oh my gosh, I can't move. But literally within moments, and I mean moments, because my adrenaline was going, time felt like it was slow, and all of a sudden, one of the track hands was already there. This big guy like kind of just like lifted my bike off of my leg, and the paramedics were there. They brought their little ambulance over, and I popped up and I was like, oh oh my gosh, that was my first crash, you guys. I can't believe it. It finally happened. I finally laid my bike down. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I actually, I actually feel pretty good about this. Like, I think that's okay. And they were just like, oh, okay, are you all right? Like, there's a lot of adrenaline. Let's make sure you're okay. So they had me hop in the ambulance. They took me back over to the medical facility on the track and asked me some questions. They asked me to take off my leathers and just check and see if there was any abrasions or anything. I did have bruising because that just happens, but I really wasn't injured. Honestly, listening to the advice of not fighting the fall was really, I think that just really saved me in a moment that could have been worse. So they, they asked me questions. They kind of like, did the medical stuff, make the knee kick and things. But yeah, they checked me out, made sure everything was fine. So it was definitely one of those moments where you're like, thank God I was in such a safe environment to have this happen. So even though like it was a bummer that I laid my bike down, Fast Track and their staff and everybody there, like they were doing their job at being there and keeping the riders safe and just protecting everything. And so the other side of this story is that when I came and basically slid out on the last lap of my session, Josh was lined up for the level 3 session to go out at the top of the hour. And he had kind of been waiting. He's like, well, I didn't see Hannah come in, but maybe I missed her. It happens. And then what happens is they waved the flag that's like, oh, there's a wreck. And he was like, oh no, I hope that wasn't Hannah. And so he's like, well, okay, I'm not gonna panic. And he goes out and he does his session as he should. And when he gets back, because, the medical staff was taking their time and just making sure that I was okay, the track hands had actually taken my bike back to the pit. So Josh got back to the pit and I'm not there, but my bike, which is scraped up and missing a foot peg and all this random stuff, is sitting there. And he's like, oh no, where is she okay? Like, he's, poor guy, scared the bejesus out of him. So he starts to go hop on his track bike to kind of come and find me. And within minutes, that's when the ambulance comes rolling up and I'm sitting in the front seat going, and I remember getting out of the ambulance and just being like, babe, I laid my bike down, but I listened to your advice and I didn't struggle. And I just went with it and I was okay. I'm okay. And he was just like, I'll tell you what, I have taken him for an emotional ride when it comes to motorcycles, because he just never knows what he's gonna get with me. I cry on my first track day, I crashed my bike on a 4th one, and I'm just like, I did it! So he's a keeper. He puts up with me. But I remember just telling him, I took your advice, I didn't fight it, it was not that bad, I felt really good about how everything happened. And it was really cool though, because while we were there, like, I didn't get to ride the rest of the day because I knocked my foot peg off, which means I couldn't even shift or do anything. Like, I really couldn't ride the bike at this point, which is a bummer because it's such a small thing and it can just ruin your ride. But I remember him saying that he was really proud of me and really proud of how I took it, that I wasn't more freaked out or all this stuff. And I think just honestly, a lot of it just comes from having a good support system at the track between like him and our mutual friends. Like, everyone just was so helpful and educational when it came to things like crashes and what you can learn from them, and also how to mentally approach them when they start to happen, that it didn't make me scared of it in that moment. So I was really grateful for that. Here's where my mistake came in. And yes, the first mistake was I probably should have done the sighting lap and then come in and just rested and had, just given myself a chance to wake up. I had all day to go out and have laps and do sessions, and I should have just not pushed so hard. I should have listened to my body in that moment, listened to my gut that I was not awake and I was not ready. That was mistake number one, but that was not my big mistake. My big mistake was that I did not get my bike fixed right away. I had this whole idea that, oh, well, now that it's broken, maybe I should get new rear sets. Maybe I should get, more aggressive ones so I can have more of a race stance and stuff. And I hemmed and hawed for months about it before I finally got a replacement foot peg. I should have just bought the replacement foot peg and then hemmed and hawed about rear sets and just not wasted the time, because this was my only bike at the time. I didn't have my Radian yet. So when I laid it down and it wasn't able to be used, I wasn't riding. And I let that last memory of going into a really leaned over, fast left-hand turn, the one that at my first track day, I got my knee down on a left turn. I love leaning into those lefts. And yet now I've built up this weird mental block that I just haven't been able to get past. And it is now so deeply rooted after life getting in the way. Josh had his bike stolen, so he still had track bikes, but he didn't have a street legal bike. So we weren't able to go on rides on the weekend. We weren't able to do as many things together. And I wasn't feeling ready to just hop on my bike and ride by myself. Mixed with, we had recently gotten engaged actually shortly before this track day. So wedding stuff got in the way. Putting our money towards weddings instead of track days or motorcycles. And we ended up having to move and careers in life. And just a lot of stuff just happened to where we weren't getting on our bikes as often. Josh eventually did get a new bike and was commuting to work. But then my job was in such the commute was not a safe one for riding. And I say that because it was a really long one in a lot of roads that just were not ideal. So it just turned into, I wasn't riding, and I really lost my confidence on my bike. And this weekend was a huge, humbling moment of realizing how uncomfortable and unconfident I am right now, to a point where I was really nervous about the safety of me on this bike, or even on this one. And I've been riding this one. My Radian's right in front of me. You can't see that. I've been riding my Radian and doing deliveries and stuff, which it's not really an aggressive style of riding. Not that riding my Ninja is aggressive, but just my Ninja is really great in theory for taking corners and doing the twisties through the canyons or oceanside rides and things. But when I've been doing deliveries and stuff, it's a little more upright. So it's been fine for that kind of delivery sort of ride. But I really need to take a step back and focus on my basics. So I have some ideas for some things I want to do to start working on rebuilding my confidence and my skills. And I'm going to now make that a priority in how I approach the next several weeks, months, year. I want to get back to the track, but I want to make sure that when I get on the track, I'm on there as safely as possible. I will be signing up in a novice category when I do, but I want to know that I'm in a headspace that I'm not putting myself or others on the track at risk when I'm out there. So that's my goal right now. I am excited to have the opportunity to work on this, and I am looking forward to being confident and excited to be on my bike again, because it is an exhilarating and empowering and even at times relaxing thing to be able to do when you're not stressed out and scared of it. And so if those are your headspace, then like me, step back and figure out why. Because that's what I need to do right now, because I know I love this. I know I love this. And I miss how I feel when it all feels right. So I'm gonna take the time to do that, and I'm gonna share with you as I progress. I wanna share with you the things that I learned that are working for me, as well as maybe the things that aren't working as well, but maybe it'll work for you. So that's where I'm at. I am relearning riding. So thank you for listening today. Thank you for tuning in to hear about my struggle in all of this. If you would like to stay up to date with what we're doing and our adventures, please consider signing up for our newsletter. You can do so at motomusegear.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are on both Facebook and Instagram at Moto Muse Gear. We're also on YouTube. Maybe you're watching us here, I don't know. And yeah, if you would like to leave us a comment, I would actually love to know if you've had a crash or laid your bike down. What are some of the things that you learned from it, as well as what helped you overcome the mental recovery of it? I'd love to hear your story. So let me know. I hope that you are all staying safe, and remember, rubber side down.